Hey everyone, it's Dexter from A2UK, and thanks for joining us for today's exclusive webinar using Revit and Advance Steel for design to fabrication. So technical consultant Ben Burns will be presenting for us today. So before we start, we'll just go through about A2K. We're all about fostering innovation through consulting and training. A2K Technologies plays a vital role in helping infrastructure, building, mining, construction, architecture, and manufacturing industries reach their full potential by delivering complete technology solutions and support services such as education and consulting. We work with visionaries to shape the future of design and in turn enable them through innovation to minimize risks, improve productivities, and achieve excellence. A2K Technologies is considered the business partner of choice and trusted advisor by vendors and clients. We partner with major software and hardware vendors to meet our clients' technology needs. We strive to exceed client expectations by pinpointing their challenges and delivering solutions through experience and innovation. We work with clients and companies of any size, nationally and abroad. Over to you, Ben.
Yep, just a bit of an introduction about me. So I'm the structural technical lead at A2K. I do have over 25 years experience in the structural and consulting engineering industry, particularly concentrating on industrial, commercial, infrastructure, high density residential design and construction documentation. I've been using Revit for over 10 years and Advanced Steel for about the same time. I do have a structural engineering associate diploma, and I do talks in the industry, webinars, demos, classes, etc. And I'm a big believer in trying to get that automation going through using Advanced Steel and Revit. Just a bit of a rough agenda on what we're going to be going through today. So I'll do a bit of an introduction about why use Advanced Steel and Revit together. Just show a bit of that power of Advanced Steel. Transferring the Advanced Steel model to Revit and mapping the members, amending those connections, and then synchronizing it. We'll also go through transferring Advanced Steel model to Revit. Obviously, we're meant to go through Revit to Advanced Steel first, and then Advanced Steel to Revit. So I will show both of how we can transfer back and forth between the two products. If I've got time, I will show a quick live demonstration as well, but I do have it mainly in our slides. We will have time for a Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions as well as we go through, please feel free to put them in the chat, and then I will address them towards the end as well. Let's go. So this is just a bit of a screenshot here showing like the Revit interface and also showing the Advanced Steel. So I will go through a bit why it is worthwhile doing them together. So obviously Revit is more of a design software. So where you'll go in, the structural engineer and even a BIM modeler will go in and model the steel. The reason why you would then push that through to Advanced Steel is Advanced Steel really has that ability to get out fabrications in 2 clicks. Obviously, there is a lot of customization and amendment that you can do through it, but you can potentially get fabrication drawings straight out. You can download the Advanced Steel extension for Revit from the Autodesk App Store. If you do use your updates in your Autodesk Desktop Manager as well, you can install it through there. So it is a free add-in, and once it's been installed, Revit users can then export a Revit structural model, saving it in a SMLX, which is a steel markup language format. During that export process, you can choose to export the entire model or just selected items. Export only your structural elements or include your slabs and footings. So I would more focus on really just exporting those steel structural elements, but you can export your slabs and footings, etc. The resulting file is only a fraction of the size of the original Revit model, so it's very easy to exchange it as an email attachment. Can then easily be imported into Advanced Steel, and it'll eliminate the need to sort of recreate any of that existing information. So that same information will go through and you'll almost have that one source of truth. So once it's exported into that XMLX format and then imported into Advanced Steel, you can then utilize all the tools in Advanced Steel to add your connections, cross bracing, base plates, handrails, and so on. So once all those details have been incorporated into the model, and then you can use those 2 clicks to basically generate each of your assembly, fabrication, and erection drawings that will make that full set of steel shop drawings. You can get your bill of materials out and then coordinate all that through your Advanced Steel document manager. So here we have our Advanced Steel interface, and you can see here where you can number the items directly from that export. So this is why Advanced Steel is quite valuable. You do have that ability to number. And then you can see here where I've numbered all the single parts. So it's picking up all those 200 PFCs, giving them the single part numbers and updating through there. So this is now where we will try and bring that into Revit itself. So one of the things with it is you are always best to actually set up a template which contains all your steel families for mapping. So it does need to map the members. So if you export from Advanced Steel, if you bring across a beam, it really needs to map that to a family steel member. A few of the things to watch out for is just to make sure you're using a steel framing element, such as a beam, to map that member. If it is a column, do make sure you're using a structural column family. So it's always a good idea to actually set up a specific template which contains all those families already. It just makes it easier to assign it to families that already exist in the template rather than having to then load individually each member. So when we load the families, so this is the template file, and we're just loading in these families from our Australian standard directory. And we're going to load in just the UBs and UCs at this stage. So this is basically setting up your template file. Do make sure when you go through that you select all the steel members. Like I said, this really does just make sure that you get all the members you want, and then you won't have to then go back and load, oh, I actually needed the 410 UB60, for instance. So this is where we go in Revit to the add-ins, and you will see that there is an Advanced Steel extension if you have loaded that in. Now remember, if you don't have it, it is under add-ins and Advanced Steel extension. You can download that from the App Store if you don't have it. So once we export that out, we will get the created SMLX file. So this is the one from Advanced Steel itself, which does have that similar add-in. I will show this as well when we go through the live demonstration. So bringing that Advanced Steel model into Revit, this is where we map the members. So we have here a column. It's coming from Advanced Steel just as a Australian standard, New Zealand standard UC 150 by 37. It's got the class name there as well. And we do have to then map it through the family name to the correct member. So we have to do that for each member. You can see each item as it comes through. These will be blank, and then you just basically add it into that the families that are loaded in. Again, like I said, it does make it easy if you do load these in. If not, you do need to come and load the family to match up with each item. Do be aware of columns as well. Columns, you will need to actually make sure that you grab the column family, not just the structural framing family. Another thing to watch out for as well is your flats. So if you do want the bracing flats, flat plates, etc., you do need to make sure that you load in that family. Now, mapping is very important and almost like the crucial stage of this process. Items that you don't map will not show, and items that you've mapped incorrectly will be incorrect. So do take a bit of time to make sure that you do this as accurately as possible. Will save you that time in the end. Once you then hit OK, you will generally get a warning coming up that you will only see these elements in a fine level of detail. So do make sure you change your visibility to fine, and then it will bring in all the members. And now this is the model in Advanced Steel. So we can see it here. It does have a UCS, which you can see. Advanced Steel, you always try and draw to a localized datum point. Be aware that it won't really cope with world coordinate systems. It is always better to be based on a local 0, 0. You will see that point come across. So you will have that project base point in Revit. And you can also put a project internal point, etc. But that is where it will bring it in on the project base point. So just be aware of that. Then you can synchronize your models, making sure that you're sharing those coordinates, etc. This is our model in Revit now. So you can see it's brought everything across. And it's also brought through a lot of the structural connections. So these connections you generally have to load. They will be loaded in as they have been used in the model. We're just going to look at one of these connections now. So we're going to zoom in here just on a corner. You can see at the moment it doesn't have a connection at this position. We do have a connection where it intersects with the column, but we don't have like a mitered connection or beam to beam connection at the end here. So we can use our Revit to create that steel connection, selecting the two beams and selecting our connection. So you can see here, we can add this connection in through Revit. You'll notice that if you are familiar with it, the interface, it is a very advanced steel interface in Revit for these connections. They are advanced steel connections. Through here, we can change the beam cut, beam notches, plates, bolts, etc. We can make that a customizable family as well and save that into our connection families. After we have adjusted it, we can also change our priority to which member is the main member as well. And bring that through. We do have a standard shear plate here, one of the other connections. So you see they're all coming through into Revit. What we're going to do here is I'm going to do a plate at the top. So we're just going to do a cap plate on this you see here. So the first thing we need to do is actually set that work plane. So we can come through and set our work plane at the top and select that face of at the top of the column. Once we do that, we can then do our steel plate. So drawing a plate simply through our steel tab and then our fabrication elements and plate, and drawing our plate in on those two corners on that surface there, and then extruding that up to the right thickness. So we can change our thickness in the properties and make sure that we give it the correct material. So set that material to steel. We're also going to do a bit of a connection at one of the ends here where we do have a couple of intersecting beams. So by default, Revit really includes only those generic steel connections. So we do want to, as we incorporate increasing levels of details, we need to deliver like fabrication level models within Revit. So Autodesk does have those steel connections. If you have used the Autodesk desktop app to install those updates, that add-in may already be installed. Otherwise, you can make sure you log into your Autodesk account to see all your Autodesk products. And if you go under Revit, you can then access those available updates, locate your steel connections add-on, and make sure you download and install that software. We're looking at this connection now, so we're going to create a connection here. So we've selected those two items, and we're doing our plate and bolt parameters. So we're going to put our 3 bolts in there. And once that's installed, all of your steel connections available in Advanced Steel will also be available in Revit. So you can include the actual connections within the BIM model as part of the initial design. So these connections will be included in that XML file that we're going to export back to Advanced Steel. So our model is now ready for export. So we've fixed that connection in the corner. Also created our connection here with just a plate connection. So we've got the 2 different connections here, and we also have our cap plate that we have created. We'll now go up to our add-ins and go to our steel transfer, so our Autodesk add-in. And then we're going to export this to Advanced Steel. So using our Advanced Steel extension here, we can go to export, and we're just going to do it as an advanced export. We can select our point where we want to export it to. And then we can synchronize it. So we'll then go into Advanced Steel, and we can select under our Export Import tab. We do have Synchronise. And you'll see here that the appended ones, they haven't changed. They haven't come in as modified. And we will get our new connections here that have come in. So we get the point here where which ones we want to accept. We sort of can get a report out, etc., and apply all these actions. So we're going to bring all those actions across. You will have to map the materials. So you can see how we set a material here with the metal steel C350, and we'll have to choose a conversion name for that material as well. So we can just go through here and change that material from Advanced Steel, and that will map it correctly. You can see it's brought our connection in with our plate and bolts. If I do go through to our cap plate, you'll see that has come through correctly as well. You'll see our bolts here have come through. So it's all come through as it should. So that is basically the rundown of how to do it. So I'm now going to go into a bit of a live demonstration and really show how that works, like in a real world example. It does take a bit of time, so do bear with me. But I do have a couple of models here, so I can show how to simply export this out into our Revit model and show how that works. So this is just a simple platform I've drawn in Advanced Steel. So I'll show Advanced Steel through to Revit and then vice versa. So this is one I've modeled. I can go to my export and import and simply export this to Revit. Once I export, it'll create a SMLX file. You can see how they are quite portable. So that file itself is about 10 meg, and the export is only 12 meg. Yeah, 1.2 meg. I'll now go to my Revit. This is just a new project. I'll start another new project. So I'm just going to start a new one. With the template, like I said, I have got one created. So I have created one. Whenever you do create a template, always try and make sure that you use the oldest version of Revit that you have. So I've used it in 2018. And that way I'm going to be able to use that template in all the other versions of Revit. If I did make that in Revit 2021, I would not be able to backdate the template to then use in like 2019. So you're always better to create your templates in the oldest version you have. So I do have this Advanced Steel to Revit SMLX template that I use for mapping. You will see it's a reasonably large template. And again, that's because I've really just made sure I've added in all the elements I'll need to. Now I am using Revit 2021. You will see how it will upgrade from 2018. Like I said, this is the joys of a live demo. We're going to spend a little bit of time waiting for computers to do things. If I can just show you in the families down here on the right in my project browser, you will see that I've got in all my structural columns. So just make sure you add in the structural columns. A few clients I've had do it in the structural framing, and then they realize they can't make a column so do make sure you load in both your columns and your structural framing. You'll see as well, if I do expand these, I generally have in all the members as well. So if I pick my UBs, for instance, you'll see that I have every UB, and that's in the columns. And you'll also see that I have all those UBs as well repeated under my structural framing. So now if I go into my add-ins tab, I do have my Advanced Steel extension. Advanced Steel extension. Don't need to say steel twice. And I can simply import that SMLX file now. It is an advanced import. There are a few other formats here, but it is an advanced import, so do use that format there. And okay. Point to that SMLX file. Ken does retain where you last were, so it does make it a little bit easy. And I'm just going to grab that platform and open that up. And you'll see now it's taken me to this mapping through here. So this is where you do have this all blank. I'm not going to do everything because, like I said, it will take me a bit of time. I do have that concrete beam in there, which I'm going to not bring across. And you can see how you have the section name and the class name here. So I know that I'm looking through my families. I can go straight to my PFC and grab that 200 PFC. The same as like a 125, for instance, and just do that accordingly all the way down. A few things you need to look out for are like your flats. So you will notice I don't have flats in here. So if you do want the flats for that one, for instance, I'm going to have to load the family. And this is why it's always a good idea to make sure you have those in. So with the load family, I can go to my Australian family, my structural framing, steel, and I will have a flat bar in here. So I've got my plate. And open. And then I'm just going to select all of them. So again, you can search or just add in the ones that you want. So you can see how it's a bit more laborious if you have to sort of do this instead of having them pre-built into that family. You can use a search function here, or you can simply hold shift down to select all those flats, tick the box, and that will bring them all in. Again, that will take a little bit of time to process. That's why I generally set up most of this as a PowerPoint rather than sitting here waiting for things to process. And then it's just a matter of allocating that to the right thing again. Again, I won't go through and do all this. We'll be here all day. I will show what happens when you don't add in a lot of these members. You'll see that a lot of it doesn't come across. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. I probably should have done a search and just loaded in that 100 by 10 flat instead of bringing them all in. But again, this is why it's a good idea to, and it's really important to set up that mapping file. So we just had a question there. A previous member families are suitable for Revit connections and Australian and Advanced Steel transfer. Yes, they will work. So probably 2015, you are sort of going back, like I don't know if you're aware now, but Autodesk is really stopping support for products that are more than 3 years old. So I would always obviously prefer to use if you can it's always good to use the same version as well. So you can see that I'm using 21 and I'm actually using Advanced Steel 2021 as well. So it's always helpful to match those versions. So you can see there, I can get that plate now just as I'm going to that. So you will see my Advanced Steel. I'm using Advanced Steel 2021 as well. So it is always best to match the versions. The families have changed to a degree, but they haven't changed substantially. So the 2015 member families should be fine. Again, it's getting a little bit old, so they're getting up around 6 years old now, but a member's a member, so it should work. So I will map the columns just to make sure I get them as well. And just to let everyone know, yes, this session is being recorded and you will be able to catch it up or share it with your friends. We will send a link out, or it will be on our A2K Technologies YouTube site. So I do feel free to have a look at that. We've got our beams in here. Just remember with the columns again, you will see how that object type is coming across. So we've got all the beams here and then you can see our columns. So again, just making sure that when you select that column, you are selecting the column type here. So I've got my UC columns and I'm going to pick my 246. And you can see again that I don't have that loaded. So just to show that again, so you can see in these UCs, I don't actually have that 200 UC column. So that's where I would need to go back and load family and make sure I get that correct column. Again, just to show how you can get it incorrect. So I will put that in as a 310. And I'll, with the Zs as well, I don't have my Z sections in through here. So I'd need to load in. Again, Zs, some people do lose these a bit. They are under your Australian standards. You can see the library I'm looking at. So it is my program data Autodesk, the correct year we're in. Libraries Australia steel framing. I'm going to go to my light gauge steel to get that Z section. Pick up my light gauge Zs. And I'll actually just go through and grab my 150/19. So I can grab that SZ there and load just that one in. And you'll see how loading one member in is a little bit quicker, and go straight to my light gauge Zs. And because that's the only one, it's picked it straight up. Again, I'm going to leave a lot of this blank, and you'll just see how they won't actually come across if I do that. So, okay, and here is my model. Again, I'm viewing this in course, so I will get a warning come up that I can't see a lot of members because I need to be in fine. A few warnings through here. Unknown shape. I am getting a lot of warnings. This is because I have blanked out a lot of those members. And if I change that to fine, and if I go to a 3, you can see I've got a lot of warnings in here. This would not happen if I did map them all. So it's a bit of a bad example. You can see, I'll just turn off the analytical through my visibility and view that in fine. And you'll see how I've got basically my columns across. Again, I'm just going to change it from a wireframe just to a consistent colors. Just so that's probably a bit brutal. Maybe we'll go hidden line. So you can see how I am missing a lot of members. You can see as well, it's substituted in. I've selected the wrong member there. So it's brought those handrails in as hollow sections. So this is where showing your mapping is very important. So you can see the handrail there is tubes, where in the actual member it is flats. And that's because I have mapped the member incorrectly. So it's very important to get that mapping right. You can see it hasn't brought a lot across a lot of the elements. My stringers are missing, my railings are missing, etc. Yeah, that is because I didn't allocate those members. You can see my bracing as well is missing. It has brought across the flats because I gave it that right plate size. So I did bring across the flats, but things like my stringers are missing because I neglected to put them in the mapping. So it's very important to get that mapping right. You can see that the purlins have come across correctly. And you'll see how I've got these plates correctly as well. So the plates and the bolts are all correct. You will see because these columns, remember that I allocated them, they were initially 200s, but when I mapped them to the larger member. So you can see how that has updated, and it's actually created that bit of a clash there with the purlin and the column. So that is just to show you that the mapping is quite crucial. You can go the other way as well. So just to show you, again, this will take a bit of time. I'll just show it quickly. If I open up one of my recent documents, yep, I've just got a factory in here. One thing it doesn't really like is parts. It's always a good idea to get rid of your parts if you do have sort of precast walls, etc. So this is just a small factory. I'll just put consistent colors on just so we can see it a little bit clearer. So it is just a small portal frame factory with a bit of a warehouse on here. I've left the wall off on that side. So again, this was drawn purely in Revit, and to export that to Advanced Steel, it's a matter of coming to your add-ins, to your Advanced Steel extension. Now there are some settings in here that you can change when you're exporting. So you can choose to export the view based on the view settings. I usually leave that off. You can export your grids as well. It's up to you if you want to export grids or not. And you can also ignore your cutbacks. I would not ignore beam cutbacks. You can disable the join for beams on import as well, so that they are separate beams. It is good to leave that on so that you disable an actual join in the beam. It does leave them as the individual beams. And okay, I won't go through that process. I have got one I've prepared earlier. So I can come here and back to Advanced Steel now. So I would have from here, I've gone to export, and this has exported that SMLX file. I can then go to Advanced Steel, just create a new project with any template you choose. Always a good idea to, being in Australia, to use the metric template. And then it's a matter again of coming to your export and import tab, coming to import. We can grab that factory structure I've got there and bring that in. Again, this will take a bit of time to do that mapping. That mapping will retain though as soon as you synchronize, etc. So yeah, I've sort of already mapped that, and you can see how it's brought it across. So I've got all my connections in, it's brought all my shortenings and cuts across as well. I'll just change this to conceptual, just so we can see it a little bit clearer. So you can see how it's brought all those members across. And then I can go ahead and do my base plates, etc. So for instance, just for this column here, I'll just isolate those two elements. So I can again go straight to my home connection vault and start to actually connect these up. I'll just grab a simple base plate. I'll select my column. And I'll be able to put my connections in. I'm not going to change anything, but that's got all the settings in here, as we know, in Advanced Steel. And that's got my connection in there now, which I can then number and produce my fabrication drawings straight from that. So you're just really avoiding that lot of work. It's very important and great for companies that are looking at getting into that fabrication. You don't need to remodel, and you can just imagine the amount of time that will save. As well, everyone's starting to really speed up that construction phase. So it's quite often now that fabrication drawings will start prior to design finalization. No one really loves that. It's always good to have the design pinned down, but the fabrication sort of starting earlier and earlier, and any changes that are made, we can synchronize between the two models and change the connections, etc. And then produce our fabrication easy. You save a lot of time. If you provide your models to your fabricator, your steel detailer, obviously there are a lot of time savings that can be made as well. I'll just open the floor up to any questions. If anyone does have any questions, I can unmute you if you do want to have any questions. So that's really it. If anyone's got any questions, they can use the chat, or please raise your hand and I can unmute you to ask a question. And I'd really just again, so I'll just give a bit of time for people might be using the chat. I will leave just our final screen up, just so if anyone does have any further information or does want anything, please contact us via email, and we'll make sure we can help you guys out. Hopefully you've got a fair bit out of the session. There's probably a fair few questions. Please, again, just feel free to reach out via email if you do have any questions, want a particular demo, or even if you have a file that you want, if you're having issues with, please let me know and I can probably help you out. So you will save a lot of time transferring stuff directly from Revit to Advanced Steel, and as well, you're not creating that sort of double handling. So as we all know, it does happen in the real world. Like someone will put a 200 UB in, someone will get it mixed up and put a 250 UB in, then that creates all kinds of issues, where as long as your mapping's correct, everything will go across as it should. And people aren't entering the same information twice, which is prone to error. Thanks a lot for your time this morning. Hopefully we have all got a lot out of it. It doesn't look like there's any questions. So that's probably us done. Thanks a lot. Please reach out through your info or at a2ktechnologies.com.au, or please reach out to your BDM, Business Development Manager at A2K. Again, this will be provided on our YouTube channel. If you don't get a link, please reach out and we'll make sure we send you a link to the recording.